I took the job because it came with a map and a warning. The warning was printed at the bottom of the email, separated from the rest of the text by a long blank space, like someone had hesitated before adding it. Trail maintenance position, solo work, familiarity with forest navigation preferred. If the forest begins to repeat paths, leave something behind. I assumed it was a joke or a poorly worded safety note about marking your route. Still, I printed the email and folded it into my pocket before heading out, the sentence sticking with me longer than it should have. The forest was part of a regional reserve, officially maintained but rarely visited. Dense, old growth, the kind that absorbs sound and light without making a show of it. My job was simple: clear fallen branches, repaint trail markers, check footbridges after storms. The map I was given showed 3 looping trails intersecting at a central clearing. Nothing complicated. The first day went smoothly. The second felt slower. By the third, I noticed that my sense of distance was slipping. Walks that should have taken 20 minutes stretched closer to 40. I blamed fatigue, then the heat, then the fact that the canopy never let the sun settle in one place long enough to orient yourself by shadow. I first saw the repetition near the creek. I crossed the same narrow footbridge twice in under 10 minutes without realizing it. The planks were identical, the water below moving at the same pace, but the markers on the trees didn't line up with my memory of them. I stopped, turned around, and walked back the way I'd come, counting my steps. The bridge appeared again. Same creak underfoot, same knot in the third plank. I checked my map, heart thudding, and felt a wave of irritation when everything looked normal on paper. Trails loop. That's what they do. Still, when I crossed the bridge a third time and noticed a fresh boot print in the mud that matched my own, I remembered the line from the email and felt something tighten in my chest. The rule made sense then, in a way I didn't like. Leave something behind, not to mark your path, to change it. I took my glove off and set it on a rock by the creek, bright orange against the green. It felt childish, like an offering to a superstition I didn't believe in. I walked away deliberately, not looking back, forcing myself to trust the map. When I reached the clearing, relief washed over me. The trails diverged exactly as they should have. I almost laughed. Then, on my way back that afternoon, I passed the creek again. The glove was gone. After that, I started carrying things I could afford to lose. Flagging tape, broken branches, a pen cap. Each time the forest repeated itself. Same fallen log, same bend in the trail, same bird song arriving at the same moment. I left something behind and moved on. It worked, mostly. The repetitions became less frequent, like the forest was adjusting, accommodating the changes. But I began to notice something else. The things I left behind weren't just disappearing. Sometimes they reappeared somewhere they didn't belong. A strip of tape tied to a sapling far from where I dropped it. My pen cap sitting neatly in the middle of a path I hadn't walked yet. The forest wasn't losing my markers. it was redistributing them. The fourth day, I broke the rule by accident. I was clearing debris after a storm and lost track of time. When I looked up, the light had shifted in that particular way that means you're later than you planned to be. I started back toward the trailhead and realized, too late, that I was walking the same incline for the third time. The slope rose, leveled out, then rose again, identical each time. I stopped, breath fogging in the cool air, and checked my pack. Nothing spare, no tape, no tools I could part with. Panic crept in, subtle but insistent. I scanned the ground and picked up a small stone, pale and smooth, and set it at the base of a tree before continuing. The path changed almost immediately. The incline eased, the trees thinned. I stumbled into a clearing I didn't recognize and sat down hard, heart racing, ashamed of how close I'd come to ignoring the rule. That night, back at my cabin, I found the stone on the table by my bed. I didn't sleep much after that. I lay awake listening to the forest settle, thinking about what it meant to leave something behind. It wasn't about marking territory. It was about exchange. You gave the forest something, and it let you pass. But the balance felt off. The forest wasn't losing anything. It was collecting, and it was learning what mattered to me based on what I hesitated to give up. The next morning I returned with a plan. I brought extra items, useless things, things without meaning. I was careful, methodical, leaving something behind the moment repetition threatened. Still, the forest pushed back. Paths began to repeat more often, shorter loops, tighter spaces. I found myself recognizing places before I reached them. A sickening sense of déjà vu that left me disoriented. The map stopped helping. Landmarks shifted subtly, like they were being rearranged just out of sight. I left behind larger items, a water bottle, a tool belt. Each time, the forest relented, but the relief was temporary. By the sixth day, I understood the escalation. The forest didn't want objects. It wanted context. The things I left behind carried pieces of my routine, my identity as someone passing through. When I left my jacket at the base of a repeating hill, the forest let me through more easily than it ever had before. The air felt lighter. The repetition eased for hours. But when I went back for the jacket later, it was folded neatly on a stump, as if waiting. I didn't touch it. The worst repetition happened near the end of the trail system, where the map showed a simple out and back. I walked the same stretch 5 times without realizing it, the forest closing in around me with each loop. The light dimmed unnaturally fast, shadows lengthening, sounds muffled. I left everything I could, tools, pack, boots, until I was walking barefoot on damp earth, cold seeping into my feet. Still, the path repeated. I started to understand the final shape of the rule. Leaving something behind wasn't about shedding weight. It was about commitment. The forest didn't want scraps. It wanted proof that I wasn't planning to return the same way. I stopped in the middle of the path and took out my phone. No signal. no map. I thought about the cabin, about the job, about the version of myself that had arrived here thinking this was temporary. I set the phone down on the ground and stepped away without looking back. The path changed immediately. The trees parted, revealing the trailhead bathed in late afternoon light, impossibly intact. I didn't run. I walked, afraid that haste might undo whatever fragile agreement I'd made. I never went back to retrieve my things. The supervisor didn't argue when I told him I was done. He just nodded and said, "You left enough then." Sometimes, when I hike elsewhere and feel that familiar flicker of repetition, I stop and check my pockets. I make sure I have something I'm willing to give up. Because forests aren't meant to trap you. They're meant to keep you moving. And if you try to take everything with you, they will eventually ask for something you can't replace.